Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Dashcraft, and I know it's been forever, but I finally decided to upload a video just for fun this time. This is actually going to be a very interesting video because we're gonna go ahead and set up our own OS 6 system, which is macOS, as we all know about it. Pretty much go through the whole setup process, and we are also gonna learn a little bit about virtualization. I'd like to also add this is gonna be a 2 or 3 part series depending on what I want to add to the whole series. The first series, which is mainly this video, will focus on basically the bare minimum, pretty much the Apple ID and just basic setup of the virtual machine in general, which pretty much functions and everything. In the second episode, we're gonna go through the GPU pass-through part of it, which will get us hardware acceleration. In the third part, I haven't decided yet, but it's likely not gonna happen. But if there's anything extra, I'll probably add it to that part 3. Please note that the second part of this series is not gonna be for everyone because it has some specific requirements of GPU. Again, second part is not required if you want to run a macOS virtual machine, but this part is usually the most important one. Second part is optional pretty much. Before we start the video, I recommend you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. I might come up with more content regarding Linux and even maybe Rust programming language. So the channel is going to be a little more advanced than the past. So maybe, again, I'm already pretty busy with university, so I don't know if I will have a stable upload schedule, but I will try my best to kind of maintain everything. My upload schedule is not the best, but I will make sure every single content that is uploaded is up to the standard. All right, without further ado, let's get into the video. So in today's video, we're going to start with the first repository, which is OS X KVM. So there's actually 2 ways of running macOS on your system. You can run it straight up from your bootloader, which again, we still need something called OpenCore. Even the OS X KVM we're going to use today is going to use OpenCore. And essentially OpenCore is basically a bootloader for your macOS. And it is actually the provider of all the system PCIs, the graphics card, even the CPU. So it has to kind of make macOS believe that we're actually having a real machine. So this OpenCore is pretty much a bootloader layer for the macOS itself, not for a system, just to be clear. So we're gonna start with virtualizing it first. I'm not gonna go through the actual machine bootloading process because that's a different story. It's gonna be a little more difficult to set up. First, you need to actually have Linux installed on your machine. So you can have Windows. I mean, I think it's possible we have Windows, but you still have to have Linux installed in a way. What I personally recommend is just installing either Fedora. It's probably the best distribution. We have Fedora here. It's the best, in my opinion, stable operating system for beginners as well. You can also go for Ubuntu, but things are going to be a little more different maybe because it has its own package manager and everything. So it is up to you guys. You can even use Arch, which is what I'm using right now, Arch Linux. But Arch Linux is very advanced, and you might not have the easiest time with it. So as you can see, I'm using Arch, and that's pretty much it. Just install a Linux distribution. It can be anything. So first, you guys have to make sure you're installing these packages. The packages that are in here are pretty straightforward. But I mean, as you go through the whole process, you will be asked, there's like a problem with like installing this component because this dependency is missing. So if you're on Ubuntu, good for you because there's a setup command that installs everything. But if you're in other distributions, the package manager is different. So you're gonna have to go through all these packages and kind of find their own distribution alternative. So as you can see, it also says this step may be adapted to your Linux distribution. The first, so it is up to you guys, and make sure this is done before everything, so it will go a lot more smoothly. So then in here we have the first step. So first we're gonna actually clone our repository. I'm gonna go to my downloads folder because I already have it inside of my main directory. So I'm gonna go ahead and clone this and make sure it is cloned with depth 1. So as you can see, we're cloning the repository now. One thing I recommend when cloning this, because it's a big repository, is running the command again in case you're lag throughout the process of like cloning it. So it will usually get it fixed out. And the next thing is OS X KVM directory. We're gonna go to that directory using cd, and then we don't have to do this. This is usually useful if they push a new commit to the repository, but we just cloned it, so there's literally nothing. There's no reason for us to pull. This is also pretty useful, so I recommend running this as well. This, which pretty much straight up copies it down, so in case of a startup, this will actually load automatically. Next ones are actually giving permission to KVM, libvirt, and input. And a lot of these actually require passwords, and it's it's just better if you have them set up right now. You don't have to put the password every single time when you're running the virtual machine. So this is pretty useful. And then now we need to actually fetch our macOS system. So if you run this, you're gonna have a menu of available pretty much versions of macOS. We know Sonoma, I think, Ventura, Monterey, Big Sur, Catalina. So for the purpose of today's video, I'm actually gonna use Monterey. You might be like, oh, why do you not use Ventura? So Ventura and Sonoma, Monterey is usually the best at the current set of time for visualization. It is complete. It added so many new graphics cards to the actual version of macOS, and you know, it's pretty useful if you want to also use GPU pass-through. But these two versions, usually they're jumps that if you need, you will jump to it. You get what I mean? So we don't really need to go to Ventura or Sonoma unless there's a specific thing we're looking for. Now we need to straight up make our own image. We just download the image, right? So we're gonna have to convert this image into an IMG file so we can actually load it via the bootloader. Next thing we need to do is actually make our disk partition. So the disk partition, our disk actually, not our partition. The disk is basically what we're gonna install macOS on. So usually giving it a pretty high amount of storage is recommended, but for purpose of today's video, I'm actually gonna go with 100 gigabytes only because I don't really need it. I already have my own macOS, and this is just a tutorial. But I recommend you guys to put a very decent amount of storage. Maybe around 150 is a pretty recommended spot. Before we actually start this process, I want you guys to do something before. So we're gonna go ahead and use Codium or like Nano, whatever you guys prefer. I use Codium because it's VS Code, but it's just debloated. We're gonna go ahead and run but open this file. Why am I opening this file? It's a pretty good question. So by default, this process is gonna, like, installation process usually takes so much time. Not even on Macs, it takes a lot of time to install macOS, iMacs. But we can actually speed this up by if we pass through a little bit more amount of cores. So in this case, I'm gonna pass through 6 cores, and every one core is 2 threads. So in this case, this will be 12 RAM, which also helps a lot with speeding up the installation process. I'm gonna give it 10 gigabytes even. You can guys even anything you want, but the more you give it, the faster you usually get from, in my experience, especially the same thing for CPU. So you save it, then you run the sh command. So this is a shell command. So we're going to open core boot.sh. As you can see, there's a new window popping up. So before we actually proceed, if you guys get any errors so far, then make sure you go ahead and install the dependency. It will usually get your things fixed out, or you can comment it down below. Make sure you tell me your distribution, and I will definitely try my best to help you guys out. We have our own window now. This is pretty good. That means our bootloader is actually loading. If you guys come to this step, nice job. You're almost 50% there. We're gonna go ahead and click on this, and if you guys get any errors throughout this process, let's see if we get any error. Yep, we're getting an error on 4 cores, 8 threads, because again, these are with SM BIOSes, so it's gonna be a little bit. Yep, there you go. As you can see, we're loaded fine. Yeah, you're gonna have to either pass out all your cores, which I cannot pass everything. You're gonna have to pass out 4 cores. Because the installation actually requires a certain amount of cores to be passed. You cannot have like somewhere in between or anything. As you can see, we see the Apple logo now, and there you go. We are in the recovery. So in the recovery, the first thing we're going to do is click on disk utility, click on continue, and within this disk utility, we're going to actually... And within this disk utility, we're going to look for a disk that we made. It was 100 gigabytes in my case. It might be different for you guys. If you guys remember, we actually had to run a command for making an actual disk to install our macOS on. I think it's this. There you go. You have 107 gigabytes, which is around 1 gigabyte that I actually passed out through it. So we're going to erase it. We're going to call it Dashcraft. You can call it anything you want. It doesn't really matter. Make sure it's an APFS, and ICYMI is this. And you click on erase. And it's done. So now we're going to exit from this, go to reinstall macOS Monterey. We're going to click on continue, and you're going to have the agreement. You're going to give it a straight good middle finger because we're violating the hell out of this. But I mean, macOS is never going to realize it on. So, you know, we're going to click on agree. We're going to click on Dashcraft, and there you go. That's our disk. We're going to click on disk and click continue, and it's going to take a lot of time. So go ahead and grab yourself some coffee, get your own lunch running, because this thing is going to take some time. In my opinion, while this is being installed, go watch yourself a YouTube video, preferably Dashcraft. And now our installation is over. So we're going to go ahead and select not the base system, but installer. And we just wait a little bit. and we're gonna be in this particular Apple logo. This will also take some time, so I recommend you guys be waiting a little bit. It's not actually like 29 minutes, it's gonna be way less, but you guys still have to wait it through. So again, go back to whatever you were doing. This is kind of like the final step of the installation. And now there we go, we're back to the main boot process. So now if you notice, so the bootloader, open core bootloader, we have macOS base system and Dashcraft, which is the disk name that I set, if you guys remember at the beginning. So this pretty much means that your disk has been like fully partitioned and everything is good. Now we're gonna go and boot to that disk so we can actually use macOS. So one thing that you guys will notice for your first run is it will set up the wizard for you, so you can set your username and password and everything. Now it's trying to validate the root image by base system, this is usually going to take a little bit of time, but after this you're usually going to be pretty fast when it comes to loading your disk. It's just the first time, again, Apple doing its own thing. I think we did like around 3 restarts so far. As you can see, we're in the Apple logo now. We're gonna reboot again. This is our 4th reboot. We're in the open core again. We're gonna select our disk again and Apple logo, and there we go. Now we are in. So first of all, first thing you will notice is it's pretty laggy because there's a lack of hardware acceleration going on here. But yeah, we're gonna deal with this. I am going to put United States, even though I'm not in United States. Continue. Not now. Data and privacy. Yeah, of course. Go ahead and steal all of my data. Then we're going to click on not now because we don't want to transfer anything. Okay, for this step, we're gonna have to do a few things before we actually get into the login of our Apple ID. Otherwise, you might risk your account getting banned. So we're gonna click on setup later. Yes, I want to skip that. So now we have terms and conditions. We're gonna click on agree. Obviously, we're breaking it, so you know. So now we have the full name. I'm gonna put Dashcraft and account name Dashcraft. Passwords 1234. So if you ever find my virtual machine, which will probably be deleted right after today's video, you can use the 1234 password on my macOS virtual machine. Okay, now we have enable location services. We don't want to enable that because I don't want my location to be spied by Apple. Nobody does, so yeah, we do not need to use it. I absolutely do not need it. Nobody needs this. Okay, nothing is gonna change in your experience. Share analytics with Apple. I do not want to share anything to Apple. Nobody wants to do that. Screen time, we're gonna continue. Dark, obviously nobody's gonna use light mode. That's pretty dumb, right? Okay, and we are in our Mac. We're gonna click on continue, and we're just gonna find like Shift Z and Shift/. Yep, there we go. Now we have our Mac. We can actually test the internet first because that's the most important part about this whole Mac test. Yep, the internet works all good. There's one thing you still need to do before. It will make your life a little bit easier, so you don't have to run this command every single time. You can put it inside your Virt Manager. Obviously, install Virt Manager on your system, on Fedora, or whatever system you have, because it's going to save you so much time. And this is what we're going to use to pass through our GPU and other components a little bit easier, because you don't want to mess around with QEMU configuration. It's pretty dumb. It's not dumb, it's just I don't like it. Go ahead and shut down the system for now. Let's just wait for it to shut down. I mean, you guys can also be just like me, be based and straight up just exit it from the terminal. I don't really care. Even this might break your system sometimes. It never happened to me, so you guys are safe to do that. Okay, now we need to actually send this to our Virt Manager. So if I go to Virtual Machine Manager, as you can see, we have macOS. This is my actual macOS virtual machine. So we're gonna close this, and instead of the OS X KVM GitHub repository, it actually tells us how to do this. So we're gonna go ahead and convert it into an XML file first. So let's go back to terminal, and we're obviously CD'd into the OS X KVM directory. We're gonna go ahead and do this, and then we're gonna do validation. So we check if this XML file is valid. It says it validates, perfect. Now we're gonna go ahead and create a VM of this XML file. Remember, my file name is XML macOS 1, so I'm gonna replace that. Domain macOS define and this, and yeah, you can also give them the permission. Yeah, there we go. I recommend replacing that with your actual username, even though user should usually return it. Sometimes it doesn't, depending on your shell. And that's it. Now, if we open a virtual machine manager, or if you don't have it like me in the terminal, you can do Virt Manager. As you can see, it's gonna open. I mean, I can close it and open it again. There you go. To right click this, Go to our info is here. So now we are gonna give it the amount of RAM that we want. I'm gonna give it 8 gigabytes. I'm gonna give it 10 if I want, even if I want, because I have 16 gigabytes. But don't give more than, I would say, 85%, 90% your RAM to the virtual machine ever, because you're still using a virtualized environment. Even if you GPU pass through, I don't recommend it. We're gonna remove the channel because we don't need it, and keep these for now. And obviously we can keep the Ethernet because it is going to be what we're going to use for our Apple ID signing. That's the easiest way actually to do it. And in the CPU section, make sure you set your CPU amount. So I mean, I'm not going to give it all of it. I'll probably give it like 14. One good thing is, since you're not using topology like we did for the configuration here, we actually use topology like sockets, core, and threads. You only pass through vCPUs in this case, because now we can actually select a certain amount without Apple bugging us about it. If you guys recall, at the beginning, I passed it through a certain amount of cores, which open core would not like kind of work when we were going to the base installation system installation. But in vCPU, it's actually more flexible, so you can actually give it the amount of threads you want, like logical CPUs. So if you test this now, you should be all good. So if you guys get an error regarding this, it's actually okay. You guys just need to go to your directory of OS X where you cloned that folder, and inside the clone folder you will have it's looking for the OVMF file, right? So as you can see, it just cannot maybe find it. I don't know what is wrong with it, but what I recommend is passing it this one instead. So we're going to copy the name of the file with the extension, and we're going to go to the XML section. And just in case you cannot edit the XML, you need to go to edit, preferences, and enable XML editing. After you enable it, then you should be fine in editing the XML file. So yeah, we're just going to replace this name with this one. We're going to click on apply, run it, and there we go. And there we go. Now if I run my password, everything should be running perfectly fine. Sorry, I gave it, oh, it was 1 2 3 4. Forgot the bad password. So there we go. Now in Monterey, everything is good. Now we're gonna force off this. The next goal is we need to actually, so for getting the Apple ID login, you're gonna have to do a few things. So first of all, you need to make sure you are using the right SM BIOS. So open core Apple services. There we go. So now we have fixing iMessage and other services with open core. So you're gonna have to generate your own SM BIOS for this. And that's very important. So we're gonna go ahead and use the GenSM BIOS in this case. We're gonna go ahead and copy this. I mean, you can just look at the tool install in here and call it a day. Let's just do that. So let's go ahead and clone this. I already cloned this, so I mean I don't have to clone it again. Now if I go to GenSM BIOS, so here's the thing. This is used for macOS because it's a .command file. For Linux and Windows or whatever, Windows is .bat, Linux.py, so I can just run this with a Python. So I'm going to do GenSM BIOS.py, and as you can see, everything's good. Make sure you have Python installed in your Linux system, otherwise you will not be able to run this file. So we're going to go ahead and click number 3, and now we need to give it an iMac version. So this actually varies, but most cases, iMac Pro 1, and then this is the amount we want to generate out of it, so 10. So we want to generate 10. So before you guys use all of this and straight up go to your like configuration or whatever, but we are going to test it. Just search check coverage Apple, and instead of check coverage Apple, you can actually check for your serial number. So we have the serial in here. Let's put it in here. You want so there you go. It's not a valid serial number. Perfect. That is what we want. Even though it sounds wrong, this is exactly what we want. We know this is the one that we want for SM BIOS because it is not valid. If it is valid, however, like this or this, not good. We don't want this. This is what we want, right? Because we want it to be unique in a way. So now we need to go to our OS X KVM in my downloads folder. Sorry, there's an open core folder in there. Click on that. Then you see a config.plist file. Double click it. Sorry, not double click it. Open it in your VS Code or whatever code editor you have. It's definitely more friendly. So in here we have this whole thing. We're gonna search for serial. So we're looking for the generic section, platform info. So this is where we're gonna replace everything with the generated SM BIOS. So we're gonna go to serial, and instead of the serial, we're gonna go ahead and replace it with a system serial number. For board serial, it's actually our MLB in this section. So we're gonna replace it with MLB. And for SMUUID, we're going to replace it with system UID in here. And for Apple ROM, Now, this is where things get a little bit more weird. So as you can see, we also have a ROM section in here, but it's in a data format. So what you guys need to be really careful about is data format is not a string anymore. Now we need to actually use something called proper tree. So what is a proper tree? Proper tree, let's look, proper tree, GitHub. So proper tree is a GUI plist editor. Most of the times I never use it unless some like issue, like not issue, but some cases where there's like a data format comes up. You're gonna have to use proper tree. So we're gonna go ahead and clone this again. I mean, we can don't exit this, just make a new terminal. We're gonna probably use it for the ROM. So let's go ahead and clone this, and now we can do Python property.py. As you can see, there's a new window popping up. So in here, we're gonna go ahead and click on open. And then in here, we're gonna go to our downloads folder where your OS X directory is. So it's in my downloads folder, OS X KVM, open core, config.plist. So we're gonna click on this, and as you can see, it will show up like this. I mean, you can close everything down right now. You don't really need half of it, all of it actually. You just need platform info. There we go, platform info. If you guys don't want to do this, you can also do search, Control F, and then search for ROM. And there you go, it shows up here. So instead of the data type in here, we're gonna go ahead and replace it with the Apple ROM section. We're gonna copy this, paste it in here, and there we go. Now we're gonna go ahead and save it. And if we save it, we will see this section being another. See, it looks nothing like this, but it is actually correct because it's being converted into a data string. It's not a string, it's a data string. It's different. So that's done. Make sure your string is also iMac Pro 1.1. It's nothing else. There's still one extra step that you guys need to do. You're gonna have to go ahead and regenerate your open core, and in order for us to do that, we're gonna have to run this command. If you guys want to also have the command straight up in front of you, it is inside of the OS X KVM open core, and instead of readme, it actually has a command right here. You just copy it, and you're gonna have to save it somewhere because you're gonna have to run it a lot if you guys want to do a modification for the open core. So there we go, it's all done. Now we can actually run our virtual machine. And if we go here, click on Apple icon about this Mac, you see this, we have the same, I think, matching ID, right? 87, yep, it's the same one. The second step is actually going to your Safari, search hacking tool, and inside the hacking tool, you're gonna go ahead and download the latest. There we go, hackintool.zip. You're gonna click on allow. Then we're going to the Finder, downloads, and we're gonna right click this, click on open. Yes, open it obviously. So now, as you can see, I mean, don't check, I don't need to check for updates. As you can see, we have everything. Now we can go to peripherals. So this is perfect. This is what we want. So in most cases, if you have an Ethernet invert manager like this, you're set, you're all done. Why am I saying this? Because as you can see, this Ethernet is required as EN0 built in. That is what you want. If you have it as EN0 built in, you're all good. If not, you're gonna have to follow the open core section. That's one of the good pros about using a virtual machine inside of a Linux environment, because then you don't have to worry about installing additional kext to make it look like built in. As you can see, a lot of people actually don't have it as built in, and some of them don't even have this at all because they pass through their USB Wi-Fi controller, not their Ethernet. But having Ethernet is the easiest way, and if it's saying built-in, you're all good. Now you can safely log in into your Apple ID without being worried about, kind of getting banned. Go to System Preferences, click on Sign In. Obviously, log in with your Apple ID and your password. Okay, I'm gonna click on allow on your phone or whatever you have. It has its own way of verification. If you guys don't have an iPhone, it will usually emails you a code, I think. So if you click on continue, perfect. If you guys see the Mac password one, it's over. That means you can actually do it without any problems now. I don't want my Mac to be found. I'm good. And there we go. Now we have our own Mac. As you can see, this is my actual Mac. This is the one I actually use, and this is the one for the test video, and these are my other accessories. So you're done. You learn how to connect your Apple ID, you learn how to make your own Macos virtual machine, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. There's gonna be a part 2 of today's video, which will go through the GPU pass-through part of it. I think it's not a good idea to have it in today's video because I mean, this video is probably gonna be useful for most people, but the second part will actually go through the pass-through your actual GPU so you can get actual hardware acceleration, and it won't be as laggy anymore. It will actually be feeling like you're actually running an iMac on your computer or your laptop, whatever. It's pretty cool, and I recommend you guys to also watch the part 2. Thank you guys for tuning in today's video. If you guys have any questions, comment them down below. I like this video if it helped you guys. And it's Dashcraft, and I'm out. I hope I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.